Well, hi everyone. I'm Brett with Manatech. I'm so glad that you are here. If you are joining us when we stream this live on May 21st, thank you for being here. If you are watching it after that, that is fine too. Thank you for being here too. We have a wonderful story to share with you tonight. The story of Steve Edwards is truly inspiring and truly motivational. If you were at our recent Manifest event, you got to see that firsthand. And now we are premiering a mini documentary on the story of Steve Edwards called The Long Run. We're doing that right now. And then we're going to follow it up at the end of this with a special interview with Steve himself. I'm going to hop on with him. He's going to share with us some more details. He's specifically going to talk about the Manatech products that he uses and why he uses them, and so much more. And I'm also going to share, for those of you in the US and Canada or in any of our European markets, I'm going to share a really big product special that you can take advantage of for a very limited time. That's going to be shared at the end of this based off of what Steve has to share with us. So I'm excited about this. If you're watching on a social platform, if you're watching on Facebook or even YouTube, share this, like it, comment while we go, tag some people that you think should watch it. Share this with others. It's completely free. Get it out there. We just want this story to be told and known and heard. And so I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Again, stay tuned till the very end. You're going to love it. You're going to be glad that you did. But with all that said, and without any further ado, let's watch The Long Run.
The thing I love about running is the way it makes me feel. I just feel alive. The best medicine in the world. At 62, I still feel fit, healthy. I hope to enjoy it for as long as I possibly can.
On the 6th of May 2024, Steve Edwards fulfilled a lifelong quest of epic proportions. Not only completing 1,000 marathons, but doing so in a faster average time than any other human on Earth. Nicknamed the Machine by his peers, this superhuman runner could never have imagined such a feat, growing up in the hard-scrabble world of 1960s England.
I was born in Coventry, and money was hard-earned, and you had to work hard to achieve things. I stood out because I was different. I was born with a deformed left hand. It dented my confidence at times. As I look back over those years, it helped with my mental strength because it was to serve me well for the sport that I eventually took up. I saw a poster one day advertising the first marathon in my hometown, and something just made me think, oh, you know what, I fancy having a go at that. I had no idea how to train or prepare for a marathon. Ignorance was bliss. I got to the finish just outside my 3.5 hours time, and it was amazing. The feeling and camaraderie with other runners and what I'd achieved. I thought I'd conquered the world. The next day was a bit different when I couldn't walk, and I actually vowed never again. And little did I know, my life at that point had changed forever. A year later I ran another marathon, and a year after that another marathon, and that's the way it started. And then by the late 1980s, I set myself a goal of running a marathon a month with the objective of doing 12 marathons.
3, 2, 1, go!
I remember running my first marathons a week apart. I'd never done anything like that before, so that was a real baptism of fire.
Banana on the next lap.
And I'd started to learn a lot about nutrition by then. It was like a jigsaw. The pieces were starting to fall into place about how to run marathons on a regular basis and be able to recover from them.
Yeah, what about diet? Just eat lots of food, basically, and then burn it off. That's right, yeah.
I ran 20 marathons that year, not 12. And I was hungry for more.
Edwards, at the age of 29, the youngest person to complete 100 marathons.
My overall aim is going to break the world record for the most marathons ever by one man. That's 524, so there's no way I'm going to be stopping. I've always collected some sort of award, whether that be a medal or a cup or a lace or a plate, and the early medals just sort of here. Tried to put everything in chronological order.
Steve kept raising the bar higher. But with great reward comes great risk. As he relentlessly pushed the limits of body and mind, eventually those limits began to push back.
In the spring of 1991, I decided I was going to have a crack for this record for running the most marathons in a year.
Deep down in everyone's hearts, they'd want to do something out of the ordinary while they're alive, and I've just chosen to sort of break this world record. It seems daft, but you know, I'm young enough and fit enough to do it, so let's give it a good crack.
A year is a long time to be running marathons back to back every single weekend, and driving back from a marathon in Holland was coming back through Belgium. I was very tired, as I always was. I fell asleep at the wheel. I hit the central reservation, and that's the last thing I remember happening. My guardian angel must be looking down on me.
Steve recovered from the accident and still set the record that year with a staggering 87 marathons. But more setbacks followed. Physical ailments, the COVID lockdown, and the death of his father, forcing him time and again to consider the viability of his quest.
I was beginning to question, blimey, is this all worth it?
But in the midst of those struggles, Steve met the muse who would reignite the flame of his marathon passion.
Teresa became my rock, not just a wife and best friend, but somebody who's dedicated herself to being by my side, being there for me, being part of this journey.
There have been times when he's wanted to sort of throw the towel in, and I have had to sort of talk him out of it and make him see sense, because I just thought if he didn't see this through to the end, he may well regret it years down the line. We make a great team.
Steve kept pushing further, faster, and the records kept falling. Soon, only one major milestone remained. But as he stacked medal upon medal, inching closer to the grandest finish line of all, one crucial question lingered. Could his aging body keep pace with his lofty goals?
Had a good run?
Good run, yeah.
Good. Make you a nice cup of tea.
Thank you. I felt a desire and a determination to discover just what a human body is capable of achieving. Extreme amounts of marathons, extreme mileage, that takes its toll on the body. So nutrition started to become ever more important. The introduction to Manatech products for me was a game changer. I found I was able to run marathons at an even greater frequency. That definitely enabled me to push on to the 1,000 in a much faster time relative to my age than I would have ever hoped for.
On the 6th of May 2024, Steve Edwards stood at the final starting line of his epic journey, just 26.2 miles from marathon immortality.
I was really, really hurting. It had been hurting the last 2 or 3 races, but nevertheless, there's no way I wasn't going to finish this race. I think if I'd have broken my leg, I'd have still crawled to the finish line. This was the end. I was happy that I'd achieved this goal, but I was also relieved that it was over.
It took Steve Edwards 29 years to run his first 500 marathons, but only 14 more to complete the next 500. His average time across all 1,000? A record-setting 3 hours, 21 minutes and 47 seconds.
The 3 official Guinness World Records are firstly for the most marathons in a year, secondly for the fastest 10 marathons in 10 days, and thirdly for the fastest average time to run 1,000 marathons. The very first marathon I ran was in Coventry, and that was all I received, a paper certificate with my name and my time on, but I've treasured it to this day. If I hadn't have ran that marathon that day, I wouldn't be standing here, record holder of 1,000 marathons.
After a lifetime of highs and lows, pain and perseverance, Steve Edwards is content with what he's accomplished and grateful to spend more time with the woman who helped him reach the finish line.
The ground is very dry, isn't it? Yeah, the water.
I felt that I'd achieved a whole lot more than I could have ever imagined, but it's time to let go and enjoy some of the other things in life.
He's a man who was driven and he saw it through to the end, and I'm super proud of him.
I'm still running, as is Teresa. What we enjoy now is doing shorter distances.
We're doing more travelling and just enjoying one another's company and not being so focused on running marathons.
Life is full of ups and downs. We had setbacks, things went wrong, but I think that's all part of life's rich tapestry.
It's very hard work, but at the end of the day, it's all worked out really well. And I do enjoy running, and I get to see a lot of places around the world and make a lot of new friends.
It's certainly taught me a huge lesson that a person can achieve amazing things if they really do put their mind to it.
Well, hey everyone, hopefully you enjoyed that documentary, The Long Run on Steve Edwards, and I am joined right now by Steve. Hello, Steve. How are you, sir?
Hiya, Brett. Yeah, not bad, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. That is such a well done short film documentary. That must have been an amazing experience for you just to have a production crew come out and capture all that. Before we dig into other things, tell us a little bit. What's it like to have a documentary made about you?
I think when it was first suggested, Teresa and I were thinking, this is like, wow, how can this be happening? And when we were told there was going to be a full-blown film crew come over from the US, and I just couldn't have imagined what that was going to be like. But basically, it was a full-on 2 days with me and Teresa fully involved. And it gave us an absolutely fantastic insight into film production. I mean, the attention to detail, ever the perfectionist, the team, very professional, all the equipment. I mean, wow, it was just, well, blew our minds really, to be honest. As I say, it was a full-on 2 days, but yeah, it was an amazing experience. And to see the finished product, well, hugely emotional for both Teresa and I, and something that we'll treasure for the rest of our lives, and hopefully leave a legacy for not just my children, but grandchildren, and hopefully, grandchildren forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's
Well,
great.
and it's certainly inspiring a lot of people in the Manatech world. For those people, those of Manatech associates who were at our global manifest, not only did they see the documentary there for the first time, you actually saw the documentary there for the first time. And so that was great to kind of see you see that for the first time. So it was very, very special. But we've had a lot of people since then say, we want to share that more. We want to see that again. We want to share it more. And so that's what this has been all about. And what I wanted to do in our short time that you and I have together here is talk a little bit more about your journey and especially Manitech's role in that journey. So if you don't mind, kind of set the stage because you started running well before you knew about Manitech. This was something you were already doing and striving for. But give us an idea, time frame wise, what your life looked like, what you were dealing with right around the time that you were being introduced to Manitech.
Yeah, I mean, I'd set myself a goal basically of running in a lifetime 500 marathons in the fastest average finish time. And I was quite realistic in that goal in terms of, I mean, it was a massive figure, but I was hoping I could do it within a sort of an average of under 3.5 hours. And the goal really was to try and achieve that in my 50th birthday year, 2012. And I was progressing quite nicely, but also having to deal with the usual things that every athlete has to deal with. So we're talking, injuries, niggles, occasional setbacks, getting the odd cold here and there. But in my late 30s, I started to feel quite tired. My performances didn't seem to be quite up to scratch. So I had some blood tests. And at first, they thought it was anemia. But as they dug a bit deeper, they found that I'd actually got a genetic blood condition known as beta thalassemia minor, which, for those who don't know, it basically means that the oxygen carrying red blood cells are a lot smaller than in a normal person. And in my case, 20 to 25% smaller. Well, that's not exactly conducive to being, for athleticism. Um, and it effectively meant that when I was running 26-mile marathons, I was effectively having to put in the effort to run 31 miles. And it also made me think about why, it explained a lot about why I could never increase my VO2 max to its full potential, no matter how hard I trained. And that my finish times would always be maxed out at a certain level. I mean, I always look back now and think, gosh, I could have been running marathons 20 to 30 minutes quicker potentially. But I think, I had to look at it differently. I couldn't be negative about it. So I turned it around and I thought, right, at least you know what you're dealing with. And what I wanted to try and do after that was make the best use of the rest of me. So, okay, I've got this condition. It can't be fixed. I've got it for life. But how are you going to deal with it, Steve? So basically, it was about making every other part of me as best as it possibly could. And I did this in a couple of ways, really. I tried to make physically myself more bulletproof. So I'd already been doing sort of weight training and strength training, that kind of thing, but I changed some of the training that I did, more targeted approach, more functional sort of core strength exercises, basically all over body strength just to make myself as strong and as bulletproof as possible. I'd always been into nutritional supplements from a very early age. I mean, hey, I was brought up on cod liver oil. So, I'd always realised, the importance of supplementation to sort of normal diet. But now it became ever more crucial. Now, around 2008, everything was going along nicely. I felt I got to grips to a certain extent with my condition. I was certainly training harder and everything seemed to be going along fine. And I was on about 420, 30 marathons, something like that. And as far as I'm aware, I'm going to achieve my goal in 2012. And then I had a call one day from somebody who described themselves as a Manitech associate. And it's funnily enough, it happened not that long after I'd set first ever world record for running the fastest 10 marathons in 10 days. And they'd seen the headline in the newspaper. And hence they realised where I worked, made a few inquiries, came through the switchboard. I was a little sceptical, to say the least, that somebody called me out the blue. But you know what? I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. And I think the thing that first attracted me was when she said, these are all food-based products, totally natural. So I thought, hey, I'll give these a go. Why not? I didn't expect any real major results, but wow. I mean, I would say within possibly 3 to 4 weeks, I was starting to experience better recovery from my training sessions, especially my tough training sessions. Um, And I also seemed to be recovering better from my races as well, which all meant that the better recovery, I was able to train harder. I was able to put more into my training, not just in terms of mileage, but also in terms of intensity. And this harder training resulted in better performances. But it also meant that I could run marathons more frequently, which was great because I actually achieved the 500 marathons goal in 2010, which was 2 years earlier than I expected. So, and afterwards I thought, well, not quite 50 yet. And, what am I going to do?
Why not go for another 500, right? Sure.
Well, it wasn't quite like that. But I remember getting back in the car after the race and I said to Teresa, I don't feel that bad. I'm still running reasonably well for my age. I was still running marathons back to back on consecutive days. I was still running consistently. And I said, basically, I think I've got a few more left in me. And I thought maybe 600, that was the sort of goal. 600 came and went, and then 700. And after the 700, people were starting to whisper or say to me, God, you could push this to the 1,000. And I'd quietly thought about that, but I didn't dare say it out loud. But sometime in the sort of 710, 720 area of my marathons, I did say, right, I'm gonna go for this. And the main reason was because I still felt really good. I was still performing relatively well. I was still running marathons on consecutive days, back to back, most weeks. And I set myself the goal. I thought I could do it by the time I was 60. So that would be in 2022. I mean, if you work that out, I had 14 years to run those second 500 marathons. And to some people, that might seem impossible, but I'd already run 500 in the first 20 odd years. So I thought, why not? I mean, I'll always regret it if I don't go for it. Sadly, COVID lockdowns and all of that sort of got in the way, and it changed the parameters massively. And going through those periods was really, really difficult. And me and Teresa had some really long chats about how whether I should actually knock it on the head, because I was going to be into my 60s when I'd eventually finish this thing. And with the best will in the world, it does catch up with you. And I just found that my performances were starting to suffer. The training had been disrupted with the racing being knocked on the head with the COVID lockdowns. So the momentum had been lost. And, it was almost like I was being tested. If you really want this, Steve, I'm going to test you, as much as I possibly can. Eventually, I got it back on track. And we thought, right, let's try and do this for 2024. And just when I thought that things were going okay, going smoothly, then I lost my father. He'd been ill for some time. And, I was devastated. I mean, this was the guy who took me to my very first marathon. He took me to my second and third marathons, actually. And he was, 15 marathons away from not seeing his son achieve this huge, this huge world record. It took me a while to get my head around it. I had to keep running. I had to keep training. I had to keep running the races. I had a schedule, and I tried to keep the focus on that. But trying to keep the focus on that meant that I couldn't really grieve in the way that I wanted to. I couldn't allow myself to, and that introduced all sorts of guilt. And the whole thing was just beginning to get on top of me a little, which is why when I eventually achieved it, the emotions that came out, not just because I was so tired and suffering with aches and pains and an injury to my hip that I'd sustained from a fall a few weeks earlier, it was as much about grief started at that point, for my father. So hugely happy that I achieved this thing, that as well, just so relieved that it was all over. And for the first time, probably in a long time, certainly since my early years, that I was able to stand back and, right, Steve, what do you want to do for the rest of your life?
Yeah. Well, and that just for context too, and I think it mentions this in the documentary, but so we're recording this in May of 25. That was roughly a year ago, right? When you crossed the finish line for the thousandth marathon, about May last year. Is that right?
May 2024. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
day day that me and Trees will never forget. Like I said, it was incredibly emotional. There was a lot of people there from the running circuit. Um, the commentators who sort of wrote it up in the sports magazines and the papers basically called it possibly one of the greatest multi-marathon world records ever set. Um, it for me, I guess for me, it was still like a dream. And for several weeks, even months afterwards, I was having to pinch myself that, I'd even achieved it. Um,
Yeah.
and I was certainly never set out to do anything like that. But I guess, as I said in the film, the main thing that it showed me was just what the human body is capable of achieving. And, it's about, yes, of course, physical strength, physical fitness, but also mental willpower, mental determination, I think, at the end of the day. And I speak about the 4Ds, the discipline, the dedication, the desire, and the determination to achieve the fifth D, which for me was the dream.
Mm.
Um, and through all of this, I was working full time, running a family home. I wasn't a professional in any way. But what I like to think about is the fact that I've hopefully got the best out of my body and made it do something which, I guess at the beginning of my early adult life, I could never even have ever imagined or even dreamt that I'd be doing something like that. So yeah, I still look back now and think I still can't believe it at times. It's
Yeah.
and I guess the main reason why is because at the beginning of the journey, it was like I had my whole life ahead of me, and I now look back and I think, where's that all gone? Where's that time gone? It's like it's gone in the blink of an eye. And it's true what they say, don't put off what you can do today. Don't put it off till tomorrow because it never comes. It's so true. You've got to do it today.
Well, and I think your story obviously is a big part of it is overcoming obstacles, be it just running a marathon for a lot of people is a major physical obstacle, major mental obstacle. But you've overcome, physical obstacles, mental obstacles, emotional obstacles, circumstantial obstacles, and just keep driving on. I know that's why everyone loves this story. And I know that's why we're so proud to be a small part of it at Manatech. So I want to talk a little bit about people are wondering, okay, we know you take Manatech products, what do you take and when do you take them? And so I'd love for you to run through it. I've got like a whole sheet here. It's a full length, so it's a lot. You are an elite athlete, and so I'm eager to hear this. So let's just start. What's a normal Manatech product regimen for you? Morning to night. Take us through that, Steve.
I think it's fair to say that I take a wide range of products, and I guess just to sort of start with, yes, I noticed better recovery, better performances, better consistency, but the real value of the products didn't really materialize until after a few years when I realized the longevity that this would give me, hence why I was able to push on to the 1,000, I think. It was a game changer in that respect. So with regard to the regime, so I'll run through this best as I can. So early morning, as soon as I wake up, so I'm still in bed, I take 3 or 4 bounce back capsules with water. It's important to take that on an empty stomach, of course, to get the full effect. And then about 45 minutes or so later, during breakfast, and certainly well before my training, I mix up a shake, and that shake is a scoop of Ambrato's Life mixed with a scoop of Osaline and True Health Shake, and also a scoop of Superfood Green and Reds. It's a very, very powerful shake. So I'm getting all my glycans, I'm getting my protein, my amino acids, I'm getting tons of nutrients and antioxidants from a wide variety of sort of fruit and veg supplements in there. And for me, that's a great way to start the day with, with my bowl of porridge as well. So along with that, I also take 2 sports capsules, an Immunostart, an omega-3, a GI Zyme, a cardio balance, a catalyst, and then after I've had my porridge, I then have a nice mug of True Edge coffee,
Yeah.
which I have a slightly larger than normal scoop. And this is like a real boost. It's a real kind of great way of boosting my energy levels. And and all the properties that come with the True Edge coffee, of course, that sort of really helps me, especially sort of 45 minutes later when I go out for my training run or do a training session.
And that's a relatively new addition, right? Because that's a new product, and I know we've been hearing you've become a big fan of that product.
Definitely. I mean, I always used to start the day with a coffee anyway. So what I've done, it is an acquired taste, but I actually love it now. And so what I've done is I've replaced my normal cup of coffee with a True Edge coffee, and haven't looked back basically. And then so the daily regime continues. So after training, and this is pretty soon after training, I get home. It's another shake, basically, scoop of Osaline and True Plenish mixed with a scoop of Nutrivirus. So again, I'm getting more protein, amino acids, more antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, glyconutrients from the Nutrivirus. And if it's a particularly hard session or a race, I'll also throw in another scoop of Ambrotose into that as well. And I also take another sport capsule or 2 as well, depending on how intense the training session was or the race. And then lunchtime, so lunch, another scoop of Ambrotose, an Immunostart, omega-3, catalyst. And then in the evening, guessed it, another scoop of Ambrotose, an Immunostart, omega-3, catalyst, and a cardio balance. And then late evening, I also have another Immunostart and scoop of Ambrotose. So a hell of a lot of Ambrotose, quite a bit of Immunostart, omega-3, that kind of thing. And really what I'm doing is targeting, if you like, my whole body, and especially the parts of my body which I know are important and conducive for better, best for athletes. So yeah, it's quite comprehensive, and
Yeah.
I guess what I've learned over the years, well, very quickly actually, but certainly as sort of within 2 or 3 years of taking the products, just how much they complement each other. So each one specifically has a purpose, but there's always seems to be some kind of overlap between the products. So although you might be taking a product which targets a specific function, there generally is an overlap into other areas as well. So you kind of get a boost in other areas from different of the products as well. So yeah, it's, as I say, it was a game changer, and I've never looked back basically. So
Yeah. And I would assume along with that, you obviously have some very, very clear strategic uh, regimen or regime on just your overall diet as well. So obviously, hey, it's not just Manatech products, but you're keeping a very close eye on that as well. And what there's a lot of different macronutrients, micronutrients, involved in the products you just shared. But obviously at Manatech, we're known for glycan replenishment therapy. Um, what do you feel like? I know you've experienced some of the differences there. What do you feel like the real difference is that people experience when they are regularly on a glycan replenishment therapy regime like you are?
it's interesting. I mean, when I first started taking Ambrotose, I guess it's fair to say that I didn't really understand the science and the technology behind it, but as even, I could only go on what I was told and what I was advised about it. But, being an athlete, it's obviously important that we, keep up to date. I never stopped learning, whether that was anything to do with how I approach training techniques, all that kind of thing. And the same goes with nutrition. But, I'd never even heard of glycans, but what I understand about glycans is they are one of the key building blocks of life, that they are involved in just about almost every bodily process. They are complex carbohydrates that are key and crucial in the maintenance of healthy cells, healthy tissue, healthy immune system, healthy gut. And I was an athlete, training hard, pushing my body to the absolute limit, pretty much on a, weekly, monthly, over many, many decades basis. To me, I couldn't afford for what I was trying to achieve for my body to break down. And this can all happen, when you're pushing your body hard. So to me, Ambrotose, if you like, became the number one key important nutrition for me in terms of trying to maintain the best possible version of me that was possible, and that's the way I look at glycans. Trying to make the best possible me, and it's certain. And when I think about myself, my body, and what I was able to achieve through marathon running, I like to think that if I was a product on a shelf, that I've extended my shelf life, if you like, way beyond, the shelf life that I probably would have had I not been taking this product. And I guess that's the best way to describe it.
I like that. That's very good. Well, Steve, thank you so much for joining us here and walking us through that. I know people were, I'm sure, taking copious notes, and I do want to share with those of you we're releasing this on May 21st. It will certainly, I'm sure people will see it after that, but if you are watching it now or close to May 21st, we've got something special for you. We have in the US and Canada, and then in our European markets, we have Steve Edwards bundles that you can go that highlight many of the products that he just talked about that he uses on a regular basis. And they are already bundled up. There's 3 different ones, kind of 3 different levels in terms of how much product is in there and how much value comes with that. But for right now, if you purchase by May 23rd, so again, here very quickly, one of those Steve Edwards bundles in North America, you will get your choice of the coffee, the True Edge coffee that Steve talked about, or the True Edge Energy. If coffee's not your thing, we have an energy drink that goes along with that as well, for absolutely free. So when you buy that bundle, we're just going to throw that in. You pick which one you want, and that is a $49 value just that we're throwing in for free. In our European markets, you'll see a very, very similar special as that goes through, and I think they're highlighting just the coffee, but you might see a choice there for the energy as well. Again, for free when you buy one of those bundles. So it's a great deal, and it's a great reason to try some of these products for the first time, whether you're an existing associate or customer and you're familiar with Manatech, or maybe this is your first time trying Manatech. This would be a great opportunity for you to give it a shot for all the reasons that Steve gave. To me, it certainly opened my eyes to some things that I need to start including in my own regimen. And I love Manatech products, so I'm certainly going to do that. Steve, thank you again. Any final words for the crew that's watching us right now?
I'd just like to basically say thank you to everybody who's supported Team Edwards over the years. Just knowing there's people out there who've sort of been watching on from afar. Really, just thank you, and a big thank you again to Manatech. I said thank you to Manatech at Manifest this year, and I really truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. It really has been a massive game changer for me. I'm still running. Me and Teresa enjoy park runs now, 5K runs. Not as long as a marathon, but I'm never going to say never again to another marathon. But at the moment, I'm still. We're still just enjoying being very active and still being able to go out and run, and I just hope that I can still continue to running into older age. So thank you again, everybody, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. And for those watching, if you're watching on a social platform, like it, add a comment, please. Share this with others. They'll love it. They'll love this story. If someone invited you to this, please reach out to them. That's probably a Manatech associate. Tell them thank you. And if you're interested in taking advantage or just taking a look at one of those bundles that I talked about, we'll have the link in wherever you're watching this, but also reach out to that associate. They'll send you a link that sends you straight to their site. And that's great. So from everyone at Manatech, thank you so much. Steve, thank you so much. And we're looking forward to even just continuing the Steve Edwards story. And we're just proud to be a small part of it.